Now, rugby league players and other codes as well are known for their courage on the field, but Cronulla Sharks' Luke Lewis has said he believes around 95% of footballers take to the field with some form of pain. National Pain Week has found around 8 million Australians are suffering from chronic pain, among them many athletes. To tell us why pain is accepted in sport, we're now joined by specialist Philip Siddall, who works at Greenwich Hospital's Pain Clinic. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's a big issue at the moment. We're seeing a lot more focus in sport in general, but particularly contact sports when it comes to issues like concussion in particular. And I guess recently we had the whole country pretty much rise to support Alex McKinnon when he suffered that terrible spinal injury. Do you think that at the moment there is a rising awareness of what pain and injury can do and the long-term effects?
I think there's certainly a growing awareness. I mean, as you said, this week is National Pain Week, which highlights how many people in this country. We know that 1 in 5 people suffers from chronic pain, so we know that it's a huge problem within the community generally. But I think we're becoming increasingly aware that, particularly for sports people, this is it's a huge issue. And I think often in the past it's sort of been negated. People haven't paid a lot of attention to it because you just expect with sport you take some big hits and you just get out on the field and you keep on doing things. But I think people are starting to realise the consequences of those long-term, one hit after another, and what happens over the long term, people suffering chronic pain 10, 20 years down the track. It's a huge cost for some of these players.
Is it the management of pain has obviously become better as the years have gone on? Has that contributed to the problem that now players, both professional and amateur, are playing through that pain and perhaps exacerbating the situation?
No, I think that's an excellent point. I think particularly with acute pain management, you have very good acute pain treatment at the time of the injury and in the week or two after the injury, so it's possible that people can get back onto the field extremely quickly. So we see people on the field when we're watching them with sometimes quite severe injuries, and we can see them back on the field 1 week, 2 weeks later because of these techniques that we're now using. So in a sense that's almost making the problem worse because people are going back, and as we've heard, they're actually carrying injuries back onto the field because we've got such good acute pain management. So the question is the chronic situation where we're not doing quite as well.
Do you think perhaps the language that we use in sport has an effect as well? When you think of John Sattler's three broken jaw broken 3 places in the 1970 grand final. It emerged last year. Sean Kenny-Dowell had a fractured jaw, so that still happens, but it's described as heroic and brave. Is that part of the problem?
It's exactly the problem. And of course, I mean, it's heroic going out with those sort of injuries and that sort of pain.
But it's the warrior mentality, isn't it?
Yes, I don't want to let the guys down. I don't want to let the team down. I don't want to show that I've taken a big hit. And those encourage people to go back onto the field, even though they may be experiencing quite severe pain and carrying quite bad injuries.
Does that also translate to the amateur, to the average, to the footballer playing on the Saturday afternoon on the park?
It sure does. I mean, we've all heard stories about people playing 40 to 50, 60-year-olds playing soccer on the weekends, ending up with really terrible injuries, doing things to their body that 50-year-old bodies are not meant to put up with. So it does flow over, and it's the same sort of mentality.
I guess too, though, in sport, there are times when there's pain that's not bad pain. When you're pushing yourself and you're pushing your body after a gym session, how do you recognise and differentiate good pain from bad pain?
Yeah, that's a very good point, and particularly with dealing with chronic pain, that's part of the message that we're trying to get across, is that pain in itself is not bad. It's not necessarily a sign of damage, and that there are times where you push past that, and not that you ignore it, but that you say, yes, I've got pain, it's not necessarily an indicator of damage, but I can still do things. So it's the difference between chronic pain where we can do that and acute pain where we've really got to be careful about what we do to our bodies.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's an amazing, interesting topic, especially at the moment, probably very significant in the future of contact sports in particular. But thank you so much for joining us,
Pleasure.
Philip. And yeah, you had the story on earlier about those burns victims, guys, and the pain that they go through. So it's a really relevant topic in all forms of life.
Absolutely. Mel, thanks very much.
Thank you.